Alrighty, how's it going? Good morning, guys. Hey, today I want to talk about something, a serious topic. Ronin Man here. I want to talk about there's a firm in Silicon Valley, and they're right now in essentially the stages of dissolving, and it's due to a sexual situation. And I want to kind of like tear it apart and break it down so that when you read the news, you can kind of see through what is written and do more research and find out so that you know more what's going on. So you can understand. So I like to be able to picture things where I almost like I have a CCTV camera in the room. I can kind of watch what happened, right? I want to know as much as I can. Now, in this particular drama, I happen to know one of the players. And I don't want to say that as if I have any inside information. The only information I have is that this person was a very nice person and I knew them decently well. I hung out for a few days once, and I have not talked to them about this. There's an ongoing investigation. It's best that nobody gets involved in something like this, especially when it's this hot. It's like, no way, no way. And I really wish the best for everybody involved in this startup, including the founders, and the investors and the limited partners and everybody. But let's talk about it. Let's look at this because this is really Ronin Man topic here. It's a great topic. Okay, so there's a you can read right there. There's a big blow up, and if we look at the headlines, like if I search today, you can see top stories: TechCrunch, Forbes, CNBC. You're seeing like all the way down articles. Crunch. Let's see. Yeah, it goes on. So basically, it's a hot story, right? And what is going on in this story, right? So at first glance, right, you see a couple of founders here. One of them, the guy on the right, Justin Caldbeck, resigned on Sunday, and it looks like they've raised quite a bit of money. I knew Binary. I'd been kind of following them, and they had raised some money. I know that Jonathan Teo, the guy on the left there, is very successful, has made a lot of smart investments in the past. And I didn't know this Calbeck guy, didn't really know much about him. But either way, like you don't get to the top. You don't get on TechCrunch, for being an idiot. You have to be smart. And these guys are all smart. Okay, so intelligent, right? So basically what happened was they raised money and now they're not sure what to do with it. Are they going to give it back? Or is the guy on the left that's not tainted, is Jonathan Teo going to manage it? Are they going to bring in a third person, right? They're kind of deciding all this stuff. But what really happened? What was the real situation? Basically, they're calling it, let's see what they call it here. Okay. A report on the information publicized Thursday set up a chain of events leading to this moment. Its story recounted numerous occasions in which Caldbeck made unwanted sexual advances towards women he worked with who were seeking funding from Binary for their startups. So Binary invests in startups, and so we have some, it looks like it's a business thing, right? 3 of the women allowed information to use their names, blah, 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 blah. And let's see here. We'll see their names in a bit. Let's see. It started off, okay, what they called him. What's interesting to me about this, the first thing I would say is my first, when a guy is being, like demeaned or taken down in public and losing his life savings and losing his reputation, the first thing I say is, what did he do? Like, I want to know exactly what happened, right? I want to know, was it good? Was it bad? Was it dangerous? Was it murder? Was it rape? What happened, right? So the words they used: predatory, demeaning, and deplorable. Okay, so let's see. So now basically both people are tainted in a way because Jonathan Teo made an apology and said a few words. And whenever you say words in the middle of a lawsuit, there's always danger, right? It can be used. It can be used against you. They can find out things that you didn't want to reveal. Saying things is not really. That's why they say you have the right to remain silent, right? Very good to take advantage of that. Okay, so basically okay, now get this. Okay, so there's no, as far as I can read, everything I've read so far is there's been no criminal charges against this person. Okay, now there could be in the future. It is possible. What is often the case with situations like this is when a man is well known, public, and there's articles like this about him, is that a lot of people will start to come forward with stories, and often the stories are completely untrue. So, there was a just to give you an example of how bad it can be. The insurance industry was so tired of people basically cheating the insurance company that I forget which insurance company it was. It might have even been a conglomeration. They got a bus and they put cameras all over the bus, everywhere, like hidden cameras. And they had actors on the bus, right? And so the bus drove down the street and hit another car at like 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour. It was like as slow as they could hit, right? They were trying to show how bad it was, right? So the bus, full of actors and actresses in the middle of the city, hit another car at like 2 miles an hour, which in a bus is nothing, right? Nobody even, they have the whole tape and you could just see people's heads barely moved when it hit the other car, right? Well, then what happened was that somebody pounded on the door, opened the door and said, hey, come on in, guys. And he started like bringing in people that were standing around or walking by. He's like, come on in. So he brought a bunch of people in. And it was all on tape. It's all like microphones, cameras, everything. And he was saying, hey, you guys sit down. Everybody, your neck hurts, your back hurts, you flew forward, blah, blah. And so people started cramming into the bus. And the insurance company, because they wanted to prove that this was so common, it was so bad, it had become this bad that they actually didn't even care about paying out on this one. They just wanted to show how bad it was. Like insurance fraud had gotten so bad, right, to this point. So what they did was, this example was, they interviewed them to the very end. So they like had cameras and everything, and they said, the insurance company interviewed them and said, so what happened? Obviously you were involved in this accident. What happened? And the lady would say something like, oh, the bus plowed into the car and I flew forward, like 4 rows. My neck, I hit something with my neck. I can't walk and I feel pain and all this. Now, the woman that was saying that was living hundreds of miles away during the accident. And she just had seen that it was in the newspaper and she had come forward to say she was on the bus. And there was like hundreds and hundreds of people that were saying they were on the bus, that they had been injured on the bus. So now it was all actors on the bus. So, there's nobody that could legally say this had harmed them because the car that they hit was also an insurance car. But and actually the insurance company paid out. They paid out the payments to these guys because they just wanted to show, and they had all the camera work and they said, look, this is how bad it's gotten. Like, what's the difference if we pay this one? This is what's happening all the time. So once in a while, you'll see something like this where they'll kind of uncover, fraud and, like how crazy things happen in this world. But when I read that, I was like, whoa, like, my gosh, how bad it can get, of people accusing people and wanting to get money, wanting to get power, using the legal system to their own advantage. And not even being there, right? Not even being physically there, right? Just reading about it in the newspaper, right? These people come forward. So, long-winded way to say is that you're probably going to expect to see now a lot more women coming forward who supposedly, or maybe in reality, had some dealings with Mr. Caldbeck and that they were not good, right? But like I said, it's really important, you guys, that there is no criminal charges against him at the moment. And he's losing his job. He's the fund is like almost being dissolved. Everything's falling apart. Jonathan Teo's under enormous strain, I'm sure. The limited partners are just, tearing their hair out. And everybody's like, people that recently joined the company are just like totally screwed. And everything's going, but what really happened? So basically, they're not really being too clear here. They're just basically saying that he made some unwanted advances in this article. This is TechCrunch. Okay, so let's see. Now they're bagging on Jonathan Teo because he did little to stop Caldbeck, although he said he didn't know, right? Nobody knows what other people do in the privacy of their own home or when they're not with them, obviously. But Let's see here. What else happened? I want to quickly go through this one because there's a lot more to the story. So I was like looking at this going, right. So there's no legal charges. There's no criminal charges. There's no rape. There's no attempted rape. There's no, what happened, right? So I started looking around and then I saw this article, right? Now it becomes more clear what's going on. Is Asian female Silicon Valley startups accuse venture capitalists of unwanted sexual advances. And this is by Aaron Chu, which is a, obviously looks like a Hong Kong spelling. So probably either Hong Kong or, Hong Kong American woman here. Not sure. Probably American, I'm guessing. But she wrote this article and she's saying very clearly it's Asian females, right? So I tend to believe her that that's probably what's going on. So here we go. Here's the name of the people involved: Danae Wong, creative Google Desktop and Minted, CEO of Minted; Susan Ho, Leti Su, co-founders of Journey, blah, blah, blah. They're just basically saying unwanted sexual advances. So it looks like we have a picture of some of the people involved here. The three women are part of a group of 6 women who've made similar allegations. They said that Caldbeck made inappropriate advances towards them. Inappropriate, okay. But did not want to really feel the backlash, blah, blah, blah. There we have Caldbeck's Twitter page. Okay, so here we go. Now we're getting some of the specifics. Ellen Powell came in to support these women after she was alleged she was discriminated and sexually harassed. Oh, this is the woman. Okay, Ellen Powell is a character you should know. She sued Kleiner Perkins, right, for sexual harassment. That she was discriminated against, sexually harassed. And not only did she lose the suit, but she lost it so bad, even in today's environment where women have a huge advantage with these cases without having to, evidence can be very weak. But even then, not only did she lose the case, but she had to pay all their legal costs. So that's when you lose a case like that, you know that you lost. Like there's no, it's just like you lost so bad that you're paying legal costs. So, and I think if you are accusing people of things they didn't do, which is obviously the case with Ellen Powell, then you should have to pay the legal costs because you wasted everybody's time, right? You cost people a lot of money. But the interesting thing is now she is now, after being totally like proven to be like completely full of it, right? Ellen Powell, right? Ellen K. Powell. Now she is somehow used her, what do you call it? Like basically she accused people of things and it turned out to be wrong and she lost. It was so wrong that she actually was penalized for it. Not just charges were dismissed, but she was penalized. So she's basically as full of it as you could possibly get, right? And now she's like some kind of a symbol for women. Okay, she's now like she's a voice in this kind of whole discussion, right? She's a voice now. She's going to come up, be quoted by women as some kind of a hero, which I cannot even understand that. Somebody who's been proven to be a liar, proven to waste people's time, proven to have bad social skills. Obviously, if you sue your own company for something they didn't do, that's like terrible. You're suing people. You're ruining people's lives. You're brutal in an effort to get money and power. You just don't care at all about anybody else. You make up any lies, and then when you get caught, you basically pay up, but then you keep trying, right? She's like, she doesn't give up, right? She's going to go to the next and the next. So here she is now being quoted, and a screenshot of her Twitter there. Let's see what she said. Here are the VCs who called out Justin Caldbeck's behavior. We drive women out of tech if we don't speak up. And then she CC'd the women involved. Now, the women involved are one thing because they actually went through something here. Obviously, it doesn't look like it's criminal so far, but they did go through something, right? Ellen went through nothing. So if I was one of these women, I would say, like, if I was Susan Ho, I would say, hey, Ellen, please don't say anything. You're a liar. That's what should have been a CC. Is like, thanks, but no thanks, Ellen. Like, we're here trying to like make our living, right? We don't need somebody like you who's suing people, wasting people's time, proven to be dishonest, and we're penalized by the courts for wasting people's time, and socially was not penalized as much as I think she should have been. But false allegations are serious. They're really serious. Guys' lives are ruined over this kind of stuff, and companies lose a lot of prestige over these kind of things, right? So let's go in here. So here's what the allegations were. Okay, now just think about this. Okay, so we have a man and a woman in Silicon Valley. I've been in Silicon Valley. I worked with a startup. I know a lot of stuff about how things go on. I went to a lot of clubs in Silicon Valley. There's a very much hookup culture. I can tell you this, if you have never lived in Silicon Valley, if you never worked at a startup, I can tell you this, that when I first went to Silicon Valley, and it was fairly recently, I went there to raise money for a company, and I spent about 6 months there. And I went out to a club and we got a private table. So it was pretty expensive actually, but we got a private table, and the first thing that happened to us, we were like surrounded by a bunch of women. It happened to be Asian women, because I think maybe there's a large population of Asian women there. I don't know. But we were just standing there, and then all of a sudden there was all these women that came up to us, and they said I didn't know what to think. I was like, I haven't lived in the States forever, so I was like, whoa, this is like wild. Like going to a club in America was like it's like going to a zoo to me, watching what the animals do. Right? I had no idea. I was like, when I left America in '89, I just didn't know much about life. I was a kid. And now, having spent a lot of time, had a lot of experiences, I was like interested to see how Americans acted, and especially Silicon Valley. So here's what happened to me. I went to a club. I was surrounded by, it just happened to be a bunch of Asian women. It was a company that was nearby. Just coincidence, whatever. They came up to us, and we had an expensive bottle, so they wanted to drink that. But they were pretty cool. They weren't like drinking they actually later on bought their own bottle, and they were totally cool. But the thing is what was interesting to me is they came up to me, and the first thing they were trying to figure out, I quickly deduced, they were trying to find out if I was part of a hot startup or not. So they were kind of like with an established older company, Taiwanese older company, and they were trying to find out, because they hadn't seen us at the club. It was me and 2 other guys, and we were with this startup, and they were like trying to figure out right away, like, was this a hot startup or not? And that I could tell right away that that's the hot thing in Silicon Valley. The girls are looking for the guy who works for the hot startup that's going to have an IPO and it's going to be the next Facebook. So it wasn't that surprising, but it was kind of funny. It was funny for me because I just didn't expect the whole thing. I was like, whoa, okay. Oh, I'm a hot thing right now, because we got a startup, right? And we had funding, right? So I was like, whoa, okay, cool. And then, like, again, I don't like to have things that make my life easier. I like to take the hard road. So once I think about it, I was like, I like to take the hard road because it forces me to improve myself. So it was interesting. I never went back to the club. I was like, okay, it's obviously pretty easy to get a date or make out or whatever if you're part of a startup, but I don't want to use that. I don't want to ever get lazy. That's the reason. I always want to be on the cutting edge, improving myself in every way. Any kind of like some guys want to have a dog or something that's going to make women come to them. To me, I just hate that kind of stuff. I just, I actively avoid it because I always want to be, as a man, I want to be such the fucking man that I am attractive in myself. Now, whether I sleep with women, I don't sleep with women, whether I take advantage of it or don't take advantage of it, I always want, just for my own confidence and my own sense as a man, I always want to be attractive inside myself, not because of some outside toy, not because of something I'm showing off, right? Because I keep my body in shape. I keep my mind in shape. I always am trying to improve myself in every possible way I can. And I think it shows over time. If you do that for 30, 40 years, it does make you more attractive, But either way, that's what I like to do, and that's what I do. So either way, so let's go back here, back to what happened. Now, here's what they said. Okay, so like I told you about the hookup culture. Like the women that we met were willing to hook up. big time. They were like very down for hooking up, right? And everybody was down because we were new, we were the startup, we had raised money, we were talking excited about our technology, and the girls were like, yeah, this is the kind of guys that we, new to the club, new to the area, it's like, woo, yeah, okay, hot, it's on, right? It's on. And so the hookup culture was pretty, I gotta say this, out of all the places I've been in America, is that Silicon Valley clubs and New York and a couple places in Chicago are some of the hottest hookup places I've ever seen. They're different. They're different. So and I guess it makes sense because it's money, it's young people, it's success, it's IPOs, it's unbelievable fortune. Naturally, you're going to have a very hot hookup culture. So that is going unsaid in this article so far, is that everybody, and these women included, that are in Silicon Valley are dealing with this stuff on a regular basis. And if you watched any woman in Silicon Valley and any man, they are dealing with this. They're having hookups. They're just doing stuff. It's a young, exciting, sexually charged environment. Okay, that's just the way it is. That is the way it is. Okay, that's not for this case or whatever, but that is the way it is. I'll tell you right now. And any club, any expensive gymnasium, gym, spa, tennis club we went to, golf, same, right? Very hot. People are looking. Things are moving. It's not like being in Iowa or something, right? So either way, here's what he sent. In that environment, what he did, he sent text messages in the middle of the night suggesting to meet up. Okay? The next thing he did, suggestion of going to hotel bedrooms during meetings. Okay? Proposition of open relationships made. Now, this is over a period of time, and obviously I read from somebody else that there's a lot of context to these situations. We're cherry picking now. We're cherry picking things that are making him look bad, and we're not cherry picking things that happened around the situation or a thing that were before or after. So keep in mind, I'm not saying this guy is innocent no matter what. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is like the reality of life is this is a hot area. There's a lot of shit going on. People are hooking up like crazy. Sex is going down like big time in Silicon Valley, right? And this is going on. And also, he made a proposition of open relationships. I just want to say quickly, I recently read the book, Sex at Dawn. We're going to review that book here on Ronin Man. But it's basically saying that open relationships are one of the most natural things for human beings. They're one of the most, I'll do the review. So when you hear the review, you can hear about Sex at Dawn review. You'll see a lot about open relationships, and I think it will probably open your mind to more natural behavior of human beings and why this wouldn't be, so I would say two things so far. Text message in the middle of the night saying to meet up is very normal. The reason why is people take a lot of Adderall. Everybody I worked with was taking Adderall. I wasn't, but everybody else was. And Adderall makes you not sleep. So everybody's up all night in Silicon Valley. And I remember when I watched Silicon Valley, the TV show, and they had the guy came in and the programmer who, melted down and took too much Adderall. That was very, very accurate in my experience. Like it was like so accurate. Like sex is hot. People are cheating like crazy. I don't want to get too many specifics of people I was with, just in case my name gets public at some point. But people were hooking up. Things were going down. No question about it, right? And so a suggestion, a text in the middle of the night, people in Silicon Valley work hard. They don't sleep. They take Adderall. Adderall is like a speed. It makes you not sleep. I was amazed because I sleep. Personally, I like to sleep at night. When I was younger, I was different a little bit, but now I sleep. I will pass up any chance to meet any woman or whatever to sleep. And I think that's the way I like to live my life. I don't give a fuck, right? But if somebody sent a text in the middle of the night to meet up, that's not unusual. It was really common for me to get texts from our investors, from our partners to say, hey, let's go to the Korean place because it was open all night. And there was a Korean barbecue. It was open late, and it had good food. It was expensive, but it had good food. It was open late. So I don't even know. It might have been open all night. But I went there many times when I was like so tired after work. But that's what you do. Silicon Valley, you get these texts. Everybody wants to meet up. So I don't think that's so unusual. A proposition of open relationships made, everybody has a different kind of relationship. If it sounds like this guy had an open relationship, so making a proposition to join an open relationship when you have an open relationship is pretty normal also. Okay, now, under the thigh grabbing, according to one woman, at a bar during a meeting. Okay. Under the table thigh grabbing, according to one woman, at a bar during a meeting. Now, this one has a possibility of being some kind of a crime. We'll see what happens with this one. Just because this guy everyone's against him, I suspect he's going to be really cornholed on this one. But I don't know. I really want to be accurate with this podcast and in videos. I'm not. Obviously, if you grab somebody who doesn't want to be grabbed, that's illegal. That's assault, right? That's physical assault and sexual assault, and it's not cool. And I don't recommend it. I don't. As a guy, I think it's really stupid to. It's really, really stupid to do anything without knowing for sure that the girl wants it. Now, that being said, different cultures have different tolerance and different social behavior. So some cultures, people talk about things more. Some cultures, they don't talk about things so much. It's more physical, right? So I've noticed my friends from Africa, I noticed they were much more physical, less talkative. They would tend to just touch and then like talk later, right? So that was the first thing I noticed. A friend of mine from Kenya, I was like, whoa. And so, there are different behavior and there's different traditions and cultures, right, out there in the world, right? So, but thigh grabbing under the table, I don't know. I don't know what happened with this one. I don't know. It's one woman at one bar in a meeting. I don't know if is that enough to ruin a guy's life, to ruin a fund with $175 million, to ruin everybody's investment, to throw everything in the shit can, to cast a pall on Silicon Valley, to rethink everything about investing. And, I don't know, this is like one person at a bar. Okay. One person at a bar. And it's not even, we don't even have her name yet. We don't know what they talked about. We don't know what happened. At bars, people hook up. I don't know if you realize this. Maybe women don't understand this, but men and women at bars hook up. I had a woman once give me a hand job in a bar, very public bar in Tokyo, in Ibis. And it was pretty sexy, actually. She freaking gave me a hand job. And I didn't touch her because I was like, oh, shit, I don't know. But she gave me a freaking hand job, and it was pretty cool. And it was right at a bar. We were at this little, kind of a cocktail table and lights on and everything. It was hot as hell, I can tell you that. I don't know if she sexually molested me. She'd be arrested as a rapist. I don't know. But I can say that things happen in bars. People are drinking. I don't know if that girl's a criminal for giving me a hand job. I personally wouldn't think she is. It was pretty welcome. I was fine with it, although it never happened before in a well-lit bar in public. It was kind of surprising, and she was drinking obviously, and I was, so, what are you going to say? I don't know. Let's let this one go and see what happens let's see what the lawyers come up with. Suggesting going to hotel bedrooms during meetings sounds bad. That sentence does not look good. So let's see let's look at more what comes out of it. Let's see what else is here. But you guys, what we're seeing here is we're seeing another situation we saw with Tiger Woods. We saw with many, many guys who are successful. We're seeing the taking down of successful guys. And what that means is that you are vulnerable too, right? There's that old saying, right? They came for the teachers or whatever, and I wasn't a teacher, so I didn't worry, right? I didn't say anything. And they came for the this, they came for the Jews, they came, and finally they came for me, right? That's like a saying, it's like you have to support other people because it could happen to you, right? What we're seeing here is we're seeing the taking down of endless successful guys who are starting funds, guys who are making money, guys who are kicking ass are now being targeted, right? Even if it's not criminal. And so far we haven't seen anything criminal. And again, that could happen, that could change. And then let's just let that one play out. But guys nobody is safe right now. Let's see what is here. Caldwick said, everybody's like covering their ass now, right? I'm deeply disturbed by the allegations, while significant context is missing from the incidents reported by the information. I deeply regret ever causing anyone to feel uncomfortable. The fact is, I have been privileged to work with female entrepreneurs throughout my career and sincerely apologize to anyone who I made uncomfortable by my actions. There's no denying that this is an issue in the venture community, and I hate that my behavior has contributed to it. Okay, so he made an apology. Let's see here. And, they're going to go into every single thing that he said. And obviously this is all going to play out in the future. Okay, so yeah, now here's interesting again. She mentioned Asian females in the beginning, and all I can see is so far Asian females accusing this guy. And then the woman who's Asian said, I personally stand in solidarity with these Asian sisters and the other and unidentified women in their cause and their fight. Okay, so she's showing her bias here. She's fully backing these women, right? Fine. She's writing this article. She has total right to do that. And so he made a long statement. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but and then now everybody's like ripping on him for what he said, right? Everything is. They're saying that everything is about him, about me, and let's see here. Back here, female founders. Now, this is the article that you're going to see most common. They don't mention that they're Asian females. They just mention they're females. They do have the women's names. You can see that you can guess perhaps that they might be either married to somebody Asian or have an Asian last name, right? So you kind of, it's interesting because it is an interesting, I guess, aspect of this whole case is that it's one race. The guy's a white guy, and the girls are all Asian, and I have noticed recently extra vitriol for this kind of situation. Now it's not what do you call it, scientific, but I've just seen it. I've seen more of this where there's an anger at guys if they're dating, married to. I remember there was an article recently about a Trump supporter that drove the motorcycle and through the crowd, and he had an Asian wife. There was a lot of comment about that. I'm not supporting the guy. The guy sounds like a total fucking wingnut to me. He sounds like a total idiot, actually. But I just think it's interesting that everybody's like jumping on this bandwagon. There's a lot of anger. Maybe it's because of feminism. Maybe because feminists are not getting chosen as much. And there's anger at other women, non-locals who are coming in and getting the guys. And maybe the guys are happy, right? The guys are happy with being married. That they're happy with having a lover. And I've noticed some anger there. I don't know how much is related to this case. It might not be related at all. I just wanted to mention that I personally in my life have seen some anger that is not logical. Like it's like this extra vitriol. That's all I can put it. That's the extra. It's like this. There's anger built up from other stuff that gets projected onto people that are in the middle of situations that kind of arouse this anger, even though it's unrelated. It is unrelated, right? This guy made some kind of advances, so whoever he did it to, everybody's the same. We're all the same in front of God or whatever. we all, whatever color, race, is our DNA is just almost identical, right? So it's basically identical. So it's not really that relevant, but it gets brought up, and you're seeing more and more of it happening. So there you go. I don't know what's going to happen here, but it looks like even the co-founder is going to get screwed. These are early reports. They're early reports. So Jonathan Teo, who's from Singapore, is getting, he's really under the microscope for working with this guy. And he's asking for forgiveness. Oops, sorry about that. And he's asking for forgiveness. And, he's saying that, he wants to right the wrong and everything. I think everybody's just being hurt by this. But what do you think about this, guys? Like, what does this mean? What does this mean? I mean, this is a fund. It's a fund that invests in startups, right? And it's just being completely destroyed by these allegations. I mean, we're talking $175 million. This is a lot of money. It's not easy to get a fund like this going. This is a big deal. This is a big deal to Silicon Valley even. Because, $175 million, do you realize how much money that is? The first investor in Google was only like $100,000, So $175 million, you're talking about some serious cash. Like, that can really change the trajectory of a lot of people's futures, right? And it'll be harder, obviously, for these guys to raise money in the future. These guys that are good investors and successful investors will have much more difficult time raising money next time. And so, these, in the end, the companies like that we're talking about here are not going to get funded because there won't be as many funds out there, right? People won't be giving money because they realize that it can all fall apart based on some allegations, not even criminal, but just like considering that, sleeping with somebody who you're investing in or hitting on somebody you're investing in is an abuse of power. I just want to say one last story. When I used to teach many years ago, I taught university, and I had one student, and she didn't come to class. She was really truant, and she finally came the last week, and she came to me and she said, I could tell she was very hurried and like she just didn't seem like, you know what I mean? Like she had a lot on her mind, and she said, look, I know I haven't been here. What can I do to make it up? And I said, look, no, it was probably not a week. It was probably like a month or something. And I said, look, I gave her a chance. I said, look, I know everybody has difficult life, different situations. I don't consider that I'm the most important person in my class. I said, look, I'd like you to write a report on this issue. It was a music school. And so I wanted her to write a specific piece that I thought was interesting and I thought would be good for her. And it would be a lot of work. So I didn't see her again until the day of the finals. And so I passed out the finals. I saw her in class. I'm like, oh, there she is. She didn't do anything. So she did terrible on the test. And I could just, one glance at her test, I could tell. And then she was waiting for me after I finished the test. So it was a music school. And in music schools, if you've ever been to one, they have big, thick soundproof walls and doors because people play instruments and drums and everything, right? And sing, and it's like super loud. So they need to have all these. Our class was soundproof, right? So when everybody left, she was waiting for me. So she came in, and she sat down, closed the door, and she looked at me. And I had never really looked at her before, but she really looked at me, and I realized, like, oh my gosh, this woman's attractive. Like she was really like well built, and she was attractive woman. There were so many women on I was 500 women, so it was a girls' college. So I was just inundated with women all over the place. But this one is extremely attractive, and so she looked at me, and she said to me, "What do I need to do, to pass?" And I said, "Look," I said, "there's nothing you can do." I said, "I told you what to do. I told you what I wanted, and you didn't do it." I said, I can't pass you when these other people came to class every day and they worked their butts off, right? And so she's like, and she looks at me, she's like, kind of like, Like, phew, like, well, and she looks at me. She looked me straight in the eye, and she said, "I'll do anything." And she looked me straight in the eye. And that look, I knew what that look meant, actually. Let me tell you what that look meant. It meant a lot of things. One thing is, what it didn't mean is that she was attracted to me. Although a lot of the students were attracted to me, there's no question. I was a very popular teacher. But this particular one, no. She was not particularly attracted to me. But what she was saying is I will do anything. Like, whatever you tell me to do sexually, it's fine. I need to pass this class. I need to graduate. And she couldn't graduate if she didn't pass my class. And I looked at her. I looked at her, and I looked at her again, and she just like said it again. She said, "I'll do anything." And I realized what she was offering, and she was the only one. I taught at that school for 4 years, and I had about 500 students per year. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a common thing, but she was offering sex for a grade. No doubt about it. And it wasn't because she liked me, because some of those students actually liked me, and they were offering sex, but they liked me, right? It was different. This was like cold. It was like, I've come to the end of the rope. I'm going to offer up the pussy to pass this class. And I said no. And I said, there's nothing I can do. And I went back to the teacher's room, and actually a couple days later, I got a call from my boss, who was the man, one of the top teachers. And he said, "Look, so-and-so, she's, she really wants to pass, and he said, we as the school want her to pass." And I knew in Japan, they don't like to fail people, right? Especially if they pay their bills and everything. So it's kind of a thing in college. They don't fail anybody. But I failed her. And he said, "Look, I really want you to think about this, And I said, "What is there? There's nothing to think about." I said, "Look, she did not do the job." And he said, "Look, he says, I really wanted you to change your mind, but because you're not changing your mind, I'm going to pass her anyway." So in Japan, they have the ability to override the teachers, the school. And so they gave her some kind of like totally cheesy, easy thing to do over the summer, and she passed my class. And it was a hilarious lesson for me and I felt kind of embarrassed afterwards, because I knew Japanese culture pretty well, and I knew that I wasn't doing the right thing. In Japan, you just pass people. You just pass them, and I just didn't want to, because, I didn't want to pass her for a couple of reasons, really, to be honest. One, because she didn't come. Two, because she offered to do some work and she didn't do it. That pissed me off. If she would have done nothing, I would have been happier. And then finally, she tempted me with sex, and she was a very sexy woman. She was well built. She had a rack, right? Which is not that common in Japan. This girl was a sexy woman, and I just didn't want her to think that every guy would go for it. I had plenty of women at the time. I had so many women. I didn't need her at all. I had so many girlfriends at the time. And so that was part of the thing too, is I was pretty satisfied. I was going home to fuck some girl anyway. So it was like, okay, whatever. I would have had to tell that other girl not to come over so she can come over. So, it didn't even make sense, even like logistically. But I wanted to teach her somewhat of a lesson. Is like, don't use, I actually tried to help my students. You know what I mean? Like I tried to teach them lessons in life when they were in my class. And that's what I did with this particular one. And in the end, the lesson she got is that the state, in this case, the school, is going to pass you anyway, And it was just sad. It was just sad, It was sad that I wasn't able to give her some kind of lesson that would have been, would have taught her something. Like if the teacher would have said to me, "Look, we're going to pass her anyway, so give her something to do this summer that's hard. And if she doesn't do it this last time, we're going to fail her, but give her one more chance," I would have done it. No problem. Right. But he didn't. He's just like, "We're going to pass her, like no matter what." And I'm like, "Great. You're going to pass her. Okay, great." It didn't make me feel good as a teacher. It didn't make me feel good about myself, because I knew they were going to do it some kind of subconsciously. But that what I'm saying is it goes both ways. When a woman offers her body to a guy, and I was young, I was probably 28. Okay, now she was 19 because it was a junior college. I was only, 9 years older than her, which was really common to date. When I was 28, I was dating women anywhere from, whatever, around her age to 23 or something, right? It was really common to date, especially in Japan. It was very common to date at different ages. Actually, I had older women too, but there wasn't a big gap. 28 and 19 is not a big gap in Japan. So, I thought to myself, God, who else could who else could fucking withstand this onslaught of this woman? You know what I mean? Like, she's like, fuck, I'm able, so I'm going to teach her a lesson so that she learns that she has to, she has to try, she has to go for it. But, it didn't happen. Women pretty much win in the end, even in Japan. They just win in the end, no matter what they do. She didn't do any work in my class. She offered sex to me, which I think is an assault because it was so difficult to turn down. And I can tell you this is no matter what bullshit people say about men and that they're so bad, I can tell you very few would say no to this girl. Very few men would say no to this girl. And it's because of the way that men are built. It's not because they're bad or good. It's the way that men are built. That look she gave me, that offer she gave me, there are very few guys that would actually turn that down. And there's very few guys who actually got that offer, And I probably got it because I was popular. I don't know what the reason was. It was probably a lot of stuff that created this kind of thing. And, I just don't think it's right. I mean, if it's not good for guys to do this stuff, it's not good for girls, right? So if a girl offers her body to me to cheat and give her a high grade, what kind of criminal behavior is that? That's like totally fine. So, a very hot girl can go out and offer sex to everybody, every teacher she has, and she's totally fine. And I had a friend who was 72 years old, and he told me he had taught university in the United States for his whole career. And he told me that it was very common. He was really embarrassed about it too. He was actually a minister too, but he said that it was common for girls not to wear panties and to flash their bare pussy at him from the front row. And he was 70 years old. He said it was common. He said it was just like a thing they did. And it was like, he didn't know why they did it, but he said he just told me in private. We became friends after I graduated. And he told me that was a common thing. And I was like, whoa. And so I know it's common all over the world. Women are testing out their powers, or testing out their sexual powers. And they're testing them out on the men that are around. The powerful men that are around. They're checking out what they're capable of. They're you know what I mean? It's almost like one of those movies where the guy gets magic powers and he's testing it out. He's throwing a net and then he's falling and you're figuring out how the net works, Spider-Man or something. He's like a kid, he's learning how his powers, his special powers work. And that's how we all are as human beings. We discover what we're capable of. And women tend to do this with their sexual behavior, their sexual power. They tend to test it out on men that are around them. And, I think that should be taken into consideration whenever we talk about bad behavior. I mean, there is no punishment for women. It's just for men. So now we're going to see this guy, Caldbeck, go down in flames. We're going to see money, changing hands. We're going to see lost opportunities. We're going to see companies not funded. We're going to see a lot of shifts in Silicon Valley. $175 million, like I said, is significant. And once again, we're going to see stuff happen. And what's the benefit? What are we winning here? I don't know. Hopefully something good will come out of this. I personally am not that hopeful. I just see another guy going down in flames. Maybe I'll be wrong. I might be wrong. I'm not always right. Okay, I'm not always right. But powerful guys are getting taken down one after the other these days. Not even based on criminal, just based on allegations and supposed abuse of power. But everybody knows. I mean, I was going to talk about Google searches because they now can statistically analyze what you search for in Google. And women search for porn where women get abused much more than men search for porn where women get abused. And that's amazing. I'm going to talk about that in a future episode. But the power dynamic turns women on. It obviously is very visible in what they search for with porn. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's right. Okay, I'm not saying that it's good. I'm saying that it turns women on. It's a natural turn on, right? The whole difference in power, the woman giving in. We're talking about sexuality here, guys. We're talking about human sexuality. We need the complicated, difficult process of like laying out the real thing. We can't just be like attacking people and taking people down and like just like we need to look at what happened. I'd like to see a full breakdown on this guy's relationship with these women. What happened? Who said what? What, like a full play-by-play on the relationship. Because if you're like, let's say, for example, I would have invited that student back to my house, right? What if I would have said to the student, 8 o'clock, blah, 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 and she could have said later, if she wanted to, I don't think she would have, but she could have said something like, hey, he invited me back to his house. Well, it's like, what did she say to me first? She said, look, I'll do anything, right? So, I mean, obviously what a woman offers and what happens in the relationship before that is very, very important. So let's look at the whole thing in context. Again, I'm not saying either way. I just want to see the whole thing. I don't want to see I don't want to see another man's ruin based on simplistic, unrealistic, lame, not even like criminal activity, just like he's a bad guy. Oh yeah, one last thing. Oh, hilarious. There was one of the articles, which I don't remember which one it was, but it said that the other partner, Jonathan Teo, had many admirers. They were like basically saying like this Justin Caldbeck was out hitting on women, right? They were looking for funding. That's pretty clear. And then Jonathan had many admirers. It's like, what? Jonathan had admirers? That's bad? He had admirers, right? He's in Silicon Valley. He's a successful guy. I told you before. What happens in the clubs? They're trying to find out. The women in the clubs are absolutely scouring the clubs for guys like Jonathan Teo and Justin Caldbeck. They are the target of these women. Women go, just like women used to go to Silicon Valley. To Hollywood, to look for sick, powerful producers to get into movies. Women are going to Silicon Valley to meet these powerful guys. These guys are making billions of dollars, right? Naturally, hypergamy, women are attracted to that, right? Hello, everybody knows that. Everybody listening, men and women, we all know that's the way women act, right? That's fine. But, it's like, if we're going to talk about this, let's talk about the complicated reality. Now, again, if it turns out to be criminal, then I would say let's look at it again, and that's fine. I can do another episode. If it turns out this guy's a rapist and there's like he's done these terrible things, something like that comes out, obviously that changes the whole the whole dynamic of the whole thing. But I think it's important to call it like it is as it goes along. I'm not the kind of pussy who sits around and waits till everything's proven and then comes out with my fucking stuff. The reason why I don't do that is because I think it's lame. You have to make a call in life. You have to decide. And as complicated, fluid things are flying by you in life, you have to be able to figure it out as it goes along. You can't wait for every time when you have all the information. So again, that doesn't mean you make a final judgment, but it means that you start to analyze the facts on the run in the complicated situation that we're in as things move, fluid, complicated, guys, girls, money, power, all this stuff. We have to be able to analyze this and make a decision about what we think at that moment with an open mind based on future facts, allegations, information that comes out later, right? If we don't do that, it's like, who are we? Because no one else is paying attention. People are just taking down successful guys like crazy. And Justin Caldbeck was married, so that was the other thing. So he was married, so they're going to as if cheating is like some big bad thing, having another lover when he had an open relationship. It's like a big bad thing. And also he hit on Asian women. That's another complicated thing. And also the fact that he was investing in companies is another complicated thing. But let's wait to see it all plays out, guys. I think it's fucking interesting. I think it's important. That's why I made this video, is I think it's important to watch these things because you can be next. The feminists are attacking these guys on top and they're blowing them out of the water. Guys are getting thrown out of college based on allegations that later proved to be untrue. Women are having guys thrown in prison. They're being released like 3 years later because she confesses that none of it was true. The women are not being punished for allegations that are not true and are absolute lies and that ruin a guy's life. So not saying this is the case here. Definitely might not be. They might be real allegations. But on first glance, it doesn't look that bad. It looks a little bit stretching the situation. I mean, the guy's running a fund, men and women drinking. The girls were in bars with him. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But the guy's not always wrong. No fucking way. Women are not always fucking right. There's a lot of lying going on. And there's a lot of power struggle going on. And women are making a serious move to take down guys that are running